welcome everyone to Plant Profits. Plant Profits is proudly brought to you by Produce Global. I'm your host, Vern Davis, and my guest today has been in the cannabis arena for at least since 2015. He is the CEO and founder of a point of sale platform for the cannabis dispensaries for the retail part of the business, and that's my understanding. And his name is Mr. Kyle Sherman. He's the founder and CEO of Flowhub. Kyle, how are you today?
I'm good. Thanks for having me on, Vern. Appreciate it.
Oh man, I've been wanting to have you on, and I'm glad we made it.
We made it happen.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
You've been growing. I've been hearing about you all the time. So how many dispensaries is your product in now?
We're in over 1,000 dispensaries across the country. We
Okay.
primarily focused on, small, medium-sized businesses. So we have customers with 50 locations and
Okay.
customers with single locations. But, our focus has been small and medium businesses.
Yeah. Why small to medium? Why did you choose that segment?
Look, it's interesting, right? Like I think starting out, I got into the business. It was around 2013 that I started to really investigate cannabis, living in Los Angeles, moved out to Colorado in early 2014. And one of the things that I realized is that the power of this industry is the SMB, right? The small, mid-sized businesses, because they care about the patients at a level that, the bigger you get, the less you can do it. And so there's a level of like this love for the plant you get with an SMB, and you get better patient care, you get better customer experiences. And I also thought, look, like if we can empower SMBs to grow themselves, well, that could be pretty interesting. If we can empower these SMBs to compete against larger businesses as they emerge, that's pretty interesting to us. So that's been our focus, and I've spent a lot of time on Cap Hill over the years at the federal level, representing the SMB, because if you go look at who's actually out there lobbying, it's the large MSOs. And while they're great businesses in themselves, I don't want to say that they're bad businesses. I think it's necessary though to build technology to help the smaller businesses compete effectively. And so I largely look at myself as a representative of this kind of swath of small, medium businesses at the federal level too. So it's been fun. I mean, it gives us a real focus.
Yeah. So now with those 1,000 or so dispensaries, what are the sales of product that goes through your system on an annual basis?
I mean, we process billions of dollars a year. Over $3.5 billion a year flows through Flowhub. And so, a lot of these SMBs are high volume in many ways, right? They're doing volume that you don't see at a typical boutique, in another industry, right? They're doing more volume than an SMB restaurant, as an example, by magnitude of potentially 4 or 5. And so, it's really incredible to see, the power of the retail environment and how many consumers actually want cannabis. It's pretty amazing.
It is amazing. Your competitive set, right? There's if you look at your space, there seems to be several companies that say that they provide sell and compliance software, point of sale and compliance software to the industries, and you've specifically carved out the SMBs, and I think that's awesome. That there's a real need. But the core of your business, compliance, supply chain data, transactional data, reporting, right? There seems to be a lot of companies that say they do that. How do I differentiate you from the competitors? And if I'm a retailer, a dispensary or a group, say you're calling on a small group of 5, which is probably, you love that, right? Why do I choose you? Why do I choose Flowhub?
Yeah, I think there's a couple of reasons, right? I mean, you're right. There are a lot of competitors in this space. I think with Flowhub, you get an experience level you just don't get with other companies, right? We've been here from day one. We've lobbied for open APIs with Metric, the state reporting system. We were the first to ever integrate with that system in Colorado. We had to fight to go get those APIs and then get them into other markets. And I think additionally, from the earliest days, we started to scale nationally, right? So, there's a difference between these competitors, right? You have really regionalized service providers today and very few actually national providers. And what that means is it's really hard to scale with those other software platforms. It doesn't mean they're bad platforms. In fact, they're phenomenal for the regions they're in, right? Could be a California specific point of sale platform. They do things that we probably don't do as well as they do in those markets. But if you're looking to scale past that one location in that one state, that's where things change dramatically very quickly, right? We can support you across 25 states flawlessly with a single sign-on. In September of last year, we've been doing this since the earliest days, right? And so, because of this national footprint, it gives SMBs the ability to scale pretty seamlessly. So they're not having to switch systems all the time. And, now we're in this state, let's use another state specific system. There's no reason to do that at this point. So, in September of last year, Vern, we launched a new system called Flowhub Maui. Flowhub Maui.
Absolutely.
We built from the ground up, right? So if I go back, you mentioned I've been in the space for quite some time early on, back in the early days, we had to make a lot of guesses. There was only one market when we first started the company, and that was Colorado, right? So we made some guesses there. Then we expanded to Oregon when it came online, and then, Alaska, and Michigan, and Maryland, and you go on right throughout the timeline. And when we stepped back, we said, okay, there are things we could have done better with our core platform. So there's two choices, right? We could either go in and it's called refactoring in tech, where we can go refactor that old platform. But in cannabis, there's so many complicated things. We said, look, let's just build a new system with all the things we've learned. And so now competitively, we're the only platform that's brand new, right, in the system, but with years of experience. It's kind of like what you see in more established markets, right? Where you see a disruptor come in. We're disrupting ourselves, right? Like we're disrupting our initial core platform. So it's really exciting. And Maui, is highly flexible, and it's 20 times faster than Classic. There's things you can do in it you couldn't do with Classic. It's what we call our original platform.
Yeah, let's break that down a little bit, because that is very exciting, because I wanted to talk about Maui, because that's come on the market, it's become available. What's the feedback you're getting from the dispensaries?
So far, it's been really positive. Of course, we're always learning and taking feedback and iterating on that feedback, right? That's what you have to do. Software is never done. It's not like a movie where you go shoot it and then you deliver it and it's on DVD or Netflix and it's over, right? You make another one. Software's evergreen, right? It just keeps going and going and going, keep iterating and evolving it. The evolution never stops. And so, we're getting great feedback. We continue to get good feedback and we iterate based on, what customers are telling us they want. We have to, do a good job of interpreting those things. All of that feedback, so we're not wasting resources building custom software for everybody, right? You have to build software that works for everybody. That's the magic of it all. But we got a great team, and they've done a phenomenal job. So the feedback on Maui is great. I mean, what I've heard is you guys fixed everything we hated about Classic, and you guys added things we absolutely love that we didn't even know we needed, right? And that's the stuff that's just awesome. I mean, you wake up in the morning, you go, all right, it's worth all the pain,
Absolutely. Did you build Maui with feedback from customers? Your learning and the input that they gave you? Did you build it to that spec?
Yeah, of course. Yeah. So we took a lot of feedback over all these years on Classic, around the Classic, the original platform. And we looked and analyzed it and said, what are some of the commonalities between all these different customers across all these different states with all these different needs? Oftentimes you talk to a dispensary in Oklahoma or in Massachusetts, and they want the exact opposite thing. So you can't just build two separate platforms for each of them, right? So how do you build a dynamic, customizable system that they can interpret those things correctly for their business? So we had to take a lot of feedback to build Maui. We invested a lot of time and money into the system, and it's been a real journey building it and then testing it along the way with live customers, right? One of the mistakes you can make is you go and do a whole build software and you go down this path and invest all this money and time. You launch it and then no one uses it because it doesn't actually solve any problems. So the trick is you have to build software while actively testing in real time with customers, and that's an iterative approach to software development, right? So you're not waiting till the end and then you see what people say. You're building with them. You're building with your customer base along the way. The entire time it's a community effort actually to build great business software. And so that's what we want to do here. So it's been a really collaborative effort with customers, and out the other end, with this announcement in September of last year, you end up getting, for people that weren't necessarily involved in the creation of it, right? They go, holy crap, this is so great compared to what we thought it was going to be. And that's music, right? We're like, oh yes, we nailed it. So Maui's great. And we'll continue to get feedback from customers, continue to iterate, and
No,
the story goes up.
that's great. That is great. Has AI become a part of your involvement with your software development? Is that something that you see is going to be a dynamic change for the dispensary owners and what they can do from the interaction and effective interaction with consumers?
I mean, I think, look, AI is interesting in that you can build predictive models and do things that,
Right.
In a smarter, more accurate fashion, using historical data and all these things.
Right.
So productivity is really interesting. But look, we are not leveraging AI in a fashion just because it's a new hot thing, right?
Of course.
We are always looking to add functionality to the system that actually solves business problems. And right now, AI, I don't think in its current form necessarily, and just rapidly trying to go out and just use AI to say we've got AI from a marketing point of view is like helpful. So, look, our team is always looking at like ways to solve business problems better. And if AI happens to be something that helps us solve a business problem better, then we'll use it, right? But it's not a core part of our platform today. And, it might not be for a year or two. But we're certainly investigating, right? I don't want to go into like tons of detail about
I'm sure.
how we're going to leverage AI, but
hey, look, I don't want to put you at a competitive disadvantage in the show here, but I just think, everything I'm touching now, the conversations I'm having about consumer products, that's part of the plan. And to your point, it's how you use it, when you use it, what's the best way that's going to create the best opportunities for the players involved. I think is important, and I think it makes a lot of sense. Your approach is that I'm not going to use it because somebody on a podcast says, "Hey, are you using it, or should you use it?" No, you use it because it makes sense, and somebody, quite frankly, is willing to pay for that. And I think that's really.
A great example of this, Vern, is like during the blockchain boom of 2017, right? I remember, are you built on blockchain? And it's like, well, for what, like, why does that matter? Does it like, is that, because the new hot thing, is that like mean that, like, what business problem does that solve? What problem are we solving? Like so I think it's just interesting how, how that works,
Right. No, it's great. Look, Kyle, we're going to take a quick break. I'm Vern Davis. I'm your host of Plant Profits, and Plant Profits are proudly brought to you by Produce Global. My guest today is the CEO and founder of Flowhub, Mr. Kyle Sherman. We'll be right back. Welcome back, everyone. This is Vern Davis. I'm your host of Plant Profits, and Plant Profits is proudly brought to you by Produce Global. My guest today is the CEO and founder of Flowhub. And Flowhub is obviously a point of sale platform for the cannabis dispensaries. And what we found out by talking to Kyle Sherman, who is the CEO and founder, is that he's really focused on the small and mid-sized businesses. That's his sweet spot. He likes to play in that arena. He thinks there's an effort there that can benefit everyone by doing that. And I totally agree with him. Kyle, when you look at the challenges of the dispensary, right? What are some of the core challenges now that you see in dispensaries, in 2023 versus 2015 when you got into putting Flowhub out in the ecosphere?
Yeah, no, look, it's more competitive than ever, right? So you might have a small town in Oregon that has 5 locations in the town. So it's like, how do you compete? What are you going to do? And I think for years, people thought, operators thought, well, we just need to cut the best deals. The problem is that's a race to the bottom. Someone says, I'll sell for 6. Totally. The next person says, I'll sell for 5. The next guy says, I'll sell for 4.
Right.
And then you end up at $1 and no one's making any money. And that's not, you can't sustain if you're not making money, right? That's ridiculous.
Right.
So, I think people are now trying to figure out, especially with inflation and, reduced consumer spend compared to the pandemic, right? They're trying to figure out, how do we compete, and There are a couple of ways to do that, right? You can go drive SEO on your website with e-commerce and get people ordering ahead. You can go implement digital payments so you're not just using cash. It increases basket sizes significantly. So we offer a payments product called
Okay.
Flowhub Pay that allows you to accept debit cards, which is really cool. And it will increase your revenue, like guaranteed, right? Like, I mean, it's like not even a question. Like we can go in to our data set and say, you can literally increase your revenue by, 22% this year. And it works. Like, I mean, customers go, oh, it wasn't 22%, it was 35%. Holy cow, you weren't kidding. It works. Consumers spend more when they're not stuck with what they took out of the ATM in the lobby. And so you can dramatically increase revenue that way. So I think, look, revenue's key right now. How do I make more money, right? What can I do as a dispensary to make more cash? It's like number one problem to solve. Number two is like, how can we make our workflows faster and easier so I don't need as many people doing manual, laborious work? How do I have like one person instead of 4 people? And so, whereas like, look, we've always been into automating workflows, but the reality is like now more than ever, it's not just a simple workflow that needs automation. It's an entire work stream. It's like, it's like, you just, how do you reduce labor cost? Right. And so, it's automation, across these work streams. And so Maui takes care of a lot of those things. Right. And so it's just, it's really, again, like you're constantly, trying to interpret the business problems across all these customer types and then translate them into like actual solutions that are scalable for them. And, if you do those things right, if you like turn those knobs correctly, you can increase revenue, your bottom line pretty dramatically. Like, I mean, for a small business with a couple locations, we're talking, it could be $3 to $5 million a year in additional bottom line revenue. I mean, that's mind boggling. It's a lot of money. And you could go use that capital, then go buy another business that's maybe struggling and start to build your empire in your community. Right. And give back and do all sorts of things. So that's the cannabis economy I want to continue to see and nurture, because I think this industry is different, so far different from other industries. You look at alcohol, why do celebrity brands work so well in alcohol? You look at the George Clooney, Casamigos tequila, you look at the Rocks tequila. Why in cannabis do celebrity brands not work well? Right. You go look at, Marley Naturally doesn't sell well. Why is that? It's because consumers don't care about that. Right. They care about finding great products. They don't care what name's on it, for a reasonable price. And so to be able to provide that, right, as a giant corporation, it becomes harder and harder to provide that great consumer experience, which is why you see companies like Curaleaf pulling out of West Coast states. They just can't compete in that model. Why? Consumers are going to the mom and pop stores where they have the relationship with the bud tender and the manager. And so anyway, solving these problems for them is just so much fun, because you really are affecting the community and ultimately the consumers at the end of the day. So,
So let me be sure that I heard you right, Kyle. So you telling me you don't think brands are going to be important in cannabis?
Well, I think brands will be important in cannabis. I'm talking about celebrity brands, right? Martha Stewart's flower.
Yes.
Vern, would you go pay a premium for Martha Stewart's flower, or would you just rather get the local farms, amazing brand that they have? But it's a no name, if you will.
Yeah. See, to me, depends on what Martha Stewart is going to provide for me. If Martha Stewart's flower is purported, maybe I haven't tried it, but I'd be curious to understand if it's a brand. So a brand it needs to talk to me as a consumer. And if it talks to me as a consumer, I'll try it. And then if it actually holds up to its claim with me, I'll come back to it.
Yeah, I think brands like this are going to become more powerful with federal legalization and a more national footprint. But you look at a brand like Wana, right? Wana gummies, incredible brand, right? I mean, I go out and look for Wana. Nancy did an amazing job with that company. And, so look, I'm not saying brands are worthless, but what I mean is it's like building a brand in this space is just, it's not the same as slapping a celebrity name on it like you do in alcohol and magically it sells well and you sell it for $1 billion. It's not how it works in cannabis. Consumers are much more focused on
Kyle, I will tell you, because I've worked in both industries, that there's many celebrities brands have failed.
Yeah.
And there's reasons why those brands, and you know this, and there's reasons why those brands fail. It all comes back to the face you're putting on there, the claims that the brand makes, the support that the celebrity gives, right? And a whole lot of variables that play a role. So the reason we're having this discussion on brands, because I am a true believer in brands. And I believe that as you do what you do at Flowhub at a high rate and with great expectation and do the things, because Flowhub has a brand now. And you do those things, you're going to help normalize the cannabis industry where brands are king and brands create value because brands are respected. I believe that. Now, you may say, Vern, that's freaking naive. And it may be.
No, I agree with you. So
yeah,
I agree. I'm a brand guy all day long, right? I love building brands.
Yeah.
We've done it phenomenally well with Flowhub. We've got a great team around our brand.
Yeah.
But I think my point is more around the national brands versus the local brands. People want, people want the organic local experience in cannabis. That's really what they're, especially when it comes to flower, which is still the number one category that sells. And so local brands, are what matter to consumers right now. And it's, again, this is why Curaleaf couldn't compete in the West Coast. Why? Because the national brand doesn't work in the West Coast, because people expect the local organic brands. That's what they want. They want the interesting local thing that is higher quality. It's a quality thing. I mean, look, eventually national brands with federal legalization will get there, because they'll start to use Humboldt flower and across all the states, and you can't compete with that.
That's right.
So
that's right.
That's when celebrity brands probably emerge. But I think look, we have a long way to go to get there. We have a long, I think a lot of people say it's only a few years away. That's not true. It's probably maybe 15 to 20 years out, right? Let's be realistic.
Exactly. So this is great. I love this discussion. So now, but let's talk about Flowhub now from the perspective of the size of the business, the people. And explain, if you were, and you were going to do this, I'm going to ask you to do this. Explain the culture of your business, the culture that the people make up in your business. Talk to me about that.
We've got a really strong group of people who love the cannabis industry, right? They love the cannabis.
Okay.
That's one of our values. We love cannabis at Flowhub. We celebrate.
Okay.
Before we were a fully remote organization, we went fully remote in early 2020 because of COVID. You'd often find in the very late afternoons people gathering outside in our office smoking cannabis together, and it was communal thing, and it was beautiful. It was a beautiful kind of ceremony, if you will, all the time, and it was it was just a really kind of cool thing. So look, I think what you find at Flowhub at its core is just people who love the plant, right? I mean, and I think you have to in this space, right? We've seen a lot of companies come and go because they thought it was going to be a quick buck. And it's just not how it works in this space. This timeline just is stretching, right? And so if you don't have the passion and the love for the products and what we're doing for dispensary owners, you're not going to fit in, right? So you innately start to develop this organization, people who love the plant. And what that leads to then are people who expect really high standards out of other people, because they're like, if we're all going to love this thing and nurture it, then we better be really good at what we do. And we're not going to tolerate people who don't work hard and who don't put 150% into what they're doing. And so, that's the kind of people the org attracts, and then it kind of begets itself. And, you end up with really smart people who are passionate, who want to hire other great smart people and don't tolerate, so we have a culture of really hard-working, passionate individuals. And who love to collaborate. And, we're not a big company. I think, from a people perspective, we have competitors who are certainly smaller than we are from a revenue perspective, with double, triple the employee count more. Right. And that's never been our focus, is having a ton of people. I actually made that mistake along the way. Right. I overhired and, but the reality is, you just don't, in technology, you don't need a ton of people. You don't need all these human resources. You just need a great group of people who are hardworking. And that's the culture we've got at Flowhub today. It's really beautiful, actually. It's
that's great.
I mean, I have people that have been at the company for 7-8 years now. Right. And from the earliest days. And we have people who have only been here a year and a half, and they all fit together really well. It's really cool.
That's great. And in your selection process, right, when you're hiring a professional, right, someone in your organization that has a professional role and it maybe lead 2 or 3 of these folks, that's what you're looking for. It's
Yeah, yeah,
passion for
yeah.
the plant,
For sure. Yeah.
hardworking.
Right? One of my favorite
Yeah,
questions is like, what's your favorite strain? Because if you like don't smoke,
yeah,
you're like, well, and it's not a requirement you have to use cannabis, but it's a really interesting question because it's like it tells you a lot about the relationship with the industry, you know? And so, I'm not saying every single person has to
hmm
use every day. I mean, gosh, I haven't actually used cannabis in probably 7 weeks, which is a
yeah.
long stint for me right now. I used to use it every night. I go through these ebbs and flows, but that's not a requirement. But the point is,
Right,
it's like having a passion for this amazing flower and the products that are
right.
derived from it. And so, yeah, certainly that question is really interesting. Also, like creative problem solving. One of the questions I love to ask people
Yeah.
is, tell me about a time where you had to get out of a really sticky situation, but it's personal. Like, give me like outside of
Uh-huh.
work. What was it?
Yeah.
And I mean, I've had candidates tell me like, so I was out camping with some friends and I lost my keys. Like, and we were hiking
Whoa.
and we had no cell service. And it's like, so what it does is it really starts to show you like how people react under pressure and what they
Yeah.
do to go solve a problem, right? Because that's all life is just, it's a series of problems you have to
Problem
solve all the
solved.
time, personal
Boy,
and professionally. And
I
so like
love that
these are,
question.
yeah,
Yeah.
it's a really interesting one, right? And it's like,
Yeah.
it immediately makes you, it's a hard question, right? I've had candidates really go, oh my gosh, wait, personal? And they can't even get there, right? And
hmm
it probably means they're not going to be a fit, right? Um,
Okay.
just because like they can't, they're not even vulnerable enough to have a conversation about their personal life. That's kind of a
Personal.
problem
Yeah.
because we're a startup and
Okay.
like personal lives affect your, like there's work-life harmony here. Like, I mean, I'm not saying you
It's a
have to like,
blend. Yeah.
it's a blend,
Yeah.
it's a blend, right? You bring
Yeah.
you bring all your personal stuff to work. So like,
Yeah.
tell me about how you react personally. So like, it's just interesting, right? And so, yeah, there's just a lot of these types of questions that I
I
used over the
love
years to
that.
like figure out the persona behind the candidate. And it's led to some really good hires, you know?
That is key, and that's great. We're going to take a quick break, and we'll be right back. I'm Vern Davis. I'm your host of Plant Profits. My guest today is Mr. Kyle Sherman. He's the founder and CEO of Flowhub, and I'll see you on the other side. Thank you. Hey, welcome back, everyone. This is Vern Davis. I am your host of Plant Profits. Plant Profits is proudly brought to you by Produce Global. My guest today, Mr. Kyle Sherman, founder and CEO of Flowhub. And he's talking to me, man. He's telling me how he's grilling these people in interviews. It's crazy. He's
We
stumping them.
do.
He's giving them great questions. It's great
We
questions.
do.
He's having fun with it too. I can see it in his eyes. He loves that stuff.
I love people. I love people, Vern.
I believe it. I love it. We're having a great time. I don't even know if we're having a podcast. What are we doing? But
Right. 2 hours later.
Exactly. Hey, you made the transition into the cannabis environment. You had an idea, you went the technical route, you wanted to be attached to the hub of the business, and you are, and you're successful. You guys are doing a great job. Have you had the opportunity to be a coach or a mentor, to get someone that that, man, they would be great in our business maybe, or in the industry? You want the industry to be successful also. I keep telling people, but right. And they're just kind of stuck in this traditional consumer business or pharma business. And it's hard for them to make the jump, or they want to make the jump, and I just want to make sure they're successful. Have you been a mentor and a coach to people in the industry?
Yeah.
Because you've been in it a while. Yeah.
Yeah, certainly. I love talking to other founders, right? Because it's a little club of people trying to do crazy stuff. And like, it's honestly, being a founder is like probably the hardest thing you can embark on, right? It seems, I think, from the outside sometimes like the super glorious thing. It's not. I'll tell you firsthand, it's definitely not. It's very painful. And so it's fun talking to other founders, right, who are going through it, because it's therapeutic for me too, right? I mean, it's just like, wow, you're getting beat to shit out there as well. Okay, cool. I'm not alone. But no, I love providing mentorship to entrepreneurs who are earlier on in the process. I've certainly had mentors that are much further along in the process than I am, and so it's just this shared communal thing. For a while, I worked with Canopy Boulder, which was an accelerator mentoring different cohorts of entrepreneurs there. And it's really cool to see how some of them have just done extraordinarily well.
Yeah.
So yeah, certainly. Yeah, it's been a lot of fun chatting with new folks. I'm so excited to see all of the amazing disruptive things that entrepreneurs are going to come up with over the coming years too. I think there's still, it's so ripe, right? There's so much to do.
It is. It's very, dude, it's very, very, very exciting. And I love that you're involved and that you're doing things like that. So let's talk about money, right? Money to the cannabis industry. I mean, 2023 right now, it's a difficult time.
Yeah, what money?
Yeah.
What are you talking about?
Yeah, right. Is there money?
Money.
Yeah. So is it hard for a company like you, for you're not on the plan? Is it hard for you to get money like it is for?
It's so hard to raise capital.
It's a
It's been
struggle.
hard. It's been hard since day one. This company has almost died, 7 times over because of capital, right? I mean, it's just so hard. I mean, thankfully we're at a point now where it's much less of an issue because we're now nearly a decade in. And we've got a good business, but it's always been difficult to raise capital. It's not an easy thing to do. I think it's difficult for any business, right? Even outside of cannabis, but then you add this layer of complexity because you've got venture capitalists out there who want to deploy capital into good businesses.
Right.
But they've got LP agreements that say they can't because there's a vice clause or whatever. And so, it's the investors we do have are phenomenal. And I'm just so grateful. We have institutional investors, one of the few companies in this space with a lot of outside institutional capital, which I'm just so grateful for. But it's every dollar was extraordinarily difficult to raise. Absolutely. Like there's no joke about that. I'm not going to make it seem like some picture perfect thing here. I mean, very, very seriously, it's
now you've had some high profile investors. Did Jay-Z put a couple dollars in your business and some others maybe?
Mr. Sean Carter. We do Kraft Heinz company through their venture arm Evolve. We have I probably shouldn't bring it up on this show because I have a huge public company investor that's very famous, global fintech company. That I'm not allowed to publicize. I would tell you one-on-one. I've done it many times with people. It's they're massive. And so it's pretty cool to be backed by them. Hopefully one day we can announce who they are. I mean, it's been years, but they want to keep it on the DL. But the founders of Venmo and interesting people, just really, the former NBA commissioner, David Stern, who unfortunately passed away a few years ago, personally invested. We have some really interesting angels and a bunch of these institutional. Headline is a big investor of ours. Poseidon is probably the most prolific cannabis investor to date. They started investing, I want to say as early as 2014. We were one of their earliest investments. That's Emily and Morgan Paxia. They're on their third fund now. They're invested in some really great companies. Headline is a big institutional investor, right? They've got we're their only cannabis company, but just people like this, right? It's just really interesting hodgepodge group of people coming together to try to bring some semblance of organization to this, compliance automation to this space. But
it's great. No, that's good, and I'm glad you sound like you're set. You're ready for the fight, brother. And I really want to thank you for showing up here today and being on Plant Profits with me and sharing some of your thoughts about what you guys do for the industry. And I love the part about how you look at hiring the talent, because that's what's going to make Flowhub great. I always say, if you hire great people, you need less of them. And that's really, really important.
I didn't always live by that either, right? I mean, I've overhired myself, but that's I've learned that it's so true. Like I used to I think it was an ego thing. I'd measure it by how many people we have. Like that was the most important thing. And it's not, right? That's not at all. It's about the business itself and the metrics, and that's what matters, and providing great customer experiences, great products. So anyway, it's a lot of fun. Thanks, Vern, for the great questions today. It was good. Good chat with you.
Yeah, it was a lot of fun. And I want to thank all of you for joining us here on Plant Profits. And I want you all to take a look for Plant Profits and on any podcast platform that you subscribe to or go to get your podcast fix. We're there: Apple, Spotify, Amazon, iHeart, and obviously Cannabis Radio. They're our partners in crime here. So please go check them out and check us out and do that. And look, Produce Global, my company, check us out. You can find us on all social media footprints: LinkedIn, Instagram, Facebook, Twitter, everywhere, YouTube. We are there. And finally, learn more about how we're building companies and what we do and how we change people's lives and what we do. And that's protisglobal.com, PROTIS global.com. Until next time, cheers.